SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast discusses topics which are relevant to the everyday lives of seniors and their caregivers. We are joined by experts who share their knowledge on a variety of issues. SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast offers solutions and resources to create the best quality of life as we age. And now, let's welcome your host, Darlene Mahoney.
Does the idea of searching for senior housing solutions seem overwhelming? SeniorLivingGuide.com is your one-stop shop for all things senior housing, memory care, home health, home care, and other senior resources. Visit us today at SeniorLivingGuide.com to connect directly and get the information that you need to make the very best decision for you or your loved ones. And I would like to express our gratitude to our podcast sponsor, Transmed Care Long Distance Medical Transportation. When a loved one with a disability or medical condition needs to relocate, Transmed Care is here to help with safe and secure nationwide medical transport services with an emphasis on comfort and care.
Transmed Care Long Distance Medical Transportation is a business built on care. Another satisfied customer writes,
"My family cannot recommend Transmed Care enough. They made Dad comfortable every single step of the way on a very long trip and went above and beyond to take incredible care of him, and he had a great time. Thank you all for getting Dad safely to his new home."
To learn more about Transmed Care, visit the website at trans-medcare.com.
And today we are with Christie Freeze. She is a passionate advocate for elder care and a seasoned expert in navigating the complexities of the elder care system, which is super complex. With over 12 years experience in the field, Christie has dedicated her career to supporting families through the challenging journey of caring for aging loved ones. And Christie has written a book. It is called The Roadmap for Elder Care, and it was created to excel at giving caregivers the safe space and support, which is so needed. But this roadmap really offers the missing link between the people-oriented, emotional aspects of caregiving and the practical, technical side of caregiving as well. Thank you, and welcome to the podcast, Christie.
Thanks so much. I'm excited to be here today.
I'm excited to have you. So, on this podcast, a lot of times we talk about, dementia. We talk about a lot of things that are health related or nutrition related. And a lot of times those caregivers kind of get lost in the shuffle, their needs. And I was a caregiver, and I do know that it is the hardest job you'll ever had, that you earn no money.
Yeah.
So it's so important to be able to navigate that in a healthy way, because it can go sideways real fast.
Very fast. Yes. And I was noticing in my time within senior living that, yes, I was focused on helping individuals find the right fit, but you're right, is the caregivers that have no idea sometimes what to do, what to expect, who to turn to for resources and support through this. And so that's why I thought I would create this.
No, I love it. I'm so excited that you did. And we'll share the link where they can access that and they can actually download it, correct?
Yeah, so I've got the download option on the website, but then the Roadmap for Elder Care did just get published on Amazon, which is a huge deal.
Yeah,
because we get everything from Amazon. And so I just wanted it to be accessible for people everywhere. But yeah, whichever way people would prefer to have it, it's available in many ways.
That's awesome. So let's get into it a little bit and talk about some of the things that you share within that book. So you have something you call care keys. What are care keys?
Yeah. So I always say that if somebody doesn't make it past that first couple of pages, it would be of value to them. And the care keys are just key vocabulary that you might not know or recognize when you're starting to navigate senior care, navigate your caregiving journey. I think that, it reminds me of WebMDing our own symptoms sometimes, and that can be a little dangerous.
I do not recommend that.
Do not recommend. But this is similar, right? When folks go to the Googles of the world or just the internet in general to search for this type of information, I think that you can land in some really not so great or positive or encouraging places. And having been in the industry for as long as I have, I know that there are tons of resources. There's tons of support. There's tons of outlets to get you the information that you need. But I think that that starts with a really well-educated search process. So the care keys are just key vocabulary. I've listed all of like the most common, vocabulary that we use. I think within the space, we say like LTC or AL or MC, and nobody really knows that that means long-term care or assisted living or memory care. And so and these definitions are not like, a beautiful Webster dictionary. They're just my interpretation and like layman's terms so that the average person can understand what these words mean and how to use them in their search.
I absolutely agree with you. When I first started in senior living, which was like 6-7 years ago, I came from a marketing aspect of just pretty much anything in general. And senior living is super different. And really some of the first things that I did was learn all those terminologies. Like what is an IL, which is an independent living, which is a ALF, assisted living facility. So it's crazy because you really do have to learn it. But if you're in it, you forget that people around you don't know what the heck you're talking about. Like you're speaking a different language.
Foreign language. Yeah. And I think that, I was in that space for a really long time. I've been in, many different capacities along the way, but I've had to be really mindful of when we're talking to a family, especially that's brand new to their caregiving journey. We do need to unpack what those things mean and how they actually relate to that individual, or else we're just kind of going right over their head and it's not helpful. And they leave more confused and worried and maybe concerned than they walked in.
Right. Right. And I do know that when you are looking for certain things, you may think you need a certain level of care or your loved one needs a certain level of care. And the reality is that's not correct. I know that we have on SeniorLivingGuide.com, we have the option for independent living and 55 plus. A lot of people don't know what the difference of those two are.
Right.
Because they're different.
Yeah, they're different. And even like something as simple, but again, when you're in the caregiving seat, might not seem simple, but something as simple as the difference between home care and home health.
Yes.
Like, I think that that's used really interchangeably a lot, and they're different. And it's not like something that you need to become an expert in by any means, but my hope with this resource is that people would be able to look at this list, have just a foundational understanding, feel a little bit more confident in navigating whatever it is they're going through, and feel, like I said, confident that they have the right terminology for what it is they're needing.
Right. When you go into caregiving, whether you're living in the home with that person or you're starting to make some decisions or helping them make some decisions for themselves, I think you have to educate yourself. And so many of us don't. I know I'll be honest with you. I was thrown into it. I wasn't educated. I didn't do my research. And it was very difficult for me to navigate. And I would never do it that way again. I've learned so much through the process. But then also what I've been seeing, since we started doing this podcast, I've learned a lot as well. But it would be a totally different caregiving experience that I went through, knowing all that I know now. Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. And, just to kind of reflect back to you, like, you're not alone in that. I think that that's more common than everyone thinks. I think that everyone that gets thrown into caregiving and has had a similar journey as you thinks that that's how it's like, that's the only way. And it's not until you get into it, you do become a little bit more well-informed that you're like, oh, that could have probably been an easier journey for me. And so I know with the resource I offer and the work that I do, like, obviously my goal is always to get in front of people and educate folks before they're in a crisis type situation. It reminds me of when people are pregnant and having babies and how everyone is like, oh, you should get this book. You should have this. Do you know about doing this? And we gather around, mothers and fathers, and we're like prepping for them to bring life into the world. Mm-hmm. And it's almost as if we forget that entirely when the time comes to start shifting how we're taking care of aging loved ones. And so I'm trying to kind of recreate that a little bit.
I absolutely love that analogy.
Yeah.
That is incredible because I've never thought of it that way, but you're right. I think, in my time, I'm going to probably age myself, but maybe it's still around. It's the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting.
Yes.
It's the Bible for pregnancy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like the moment that you announce that you're pregnant or that your spouse is pregnant, everyone is like, oh, I've done that before. I know how to help you. I can help you be prepared for this and navigate this with ease. Like, here's some tips and ideas and, things to consider. And I really believe that as we shift as a collective, that conversation will catch up to when it comes to taking care of aging loved ones. To me, it's no different. Like, the stage of life might be different, but the process is very much the same. We can still offer roadmaps or solutions or tools or support groups. Like, there are, in my opinion, probably just as many resources as there are for when someone's bringing life into the world. We just don't talk about them, which is why I'm so happy that this podcast exists and that people are having these conversations, because I think it's just fear. I think if we talk about it, it will reduce some of that fear and empower people to want to be educated on this.
Absolutely. And the education, as we were talking about, that is such a key. And where do you start? So I do know, as we talked about, a lot of people go online and they start looking things up, and that can take you down rabbit trails. I mean, there's so much stuff online. It really can be very difficult to navigate, can be confusing. And then you really don't know what you're doing. You're literally, you have a roadmap. This is like the wild, wild west online because everything's on there.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
When you see so many things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely overwhelming. I'm the type of person that I want bullet points. Just give me tick, 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 and I will stick with it all day long. But if you give me like paragraphs and footnotes, I'm out.
Yeah. That's why the goal with this, it's very, like, I know no one can see this, but you can see it. It's very thin. It's just a 36-page guide. And it's set up like a workbook. So it's very much, easy to consume. The goal with this was not to make it like a novel. I don't want to read that. And so I have to assume that family members that are within a crisis or, even just starting to have these conversations that might not feel super exciting or positive, they can be neutral. We can come at them, with a little bit more just neutral energy and use this as just a guide, and then be able to go make really good choices for yourself and your loved one based on what you learn here.
Right. So some of the things that you talk about is 5 pages of self-care ideas. So what are some of those ideas? Can you share a little bit of that with us?
I would love to. So I added these 5 pages of self-care in. Originally, I had thought, and Care by Christie is the name of my business and website and all of that. But CARE actually stands for Creating a Roadmap for Eldercare. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't.
Yeah. So a little bit of a play there. But my thought was, yes, I need to provide the information that I've gathered over the last 12 years. But I also know that caregivers need to take care of themselves. And that's not what they're going to go seek out. Like, I think that the chance of a caregiver going to Amazon and like specifically finding a self-care book for themselves is slim. And this has them baked in. So that way it's just kind of, very subtle. So one of my favorite things is words are power. And so I think that something as simple as saying we have to do versus we get to do. I've heard it many times where we have to do some things for our loved one, or we have to do this, so we can't do this. And something just as simple as shifting your perspective on that. My dad passed away when he was 46. I was 17. So I didn't get to do any of those things. I don't have to do them, but I didn't get to do them. And so it's just very subtle shifts. One of the other things is tracking to attract. And so it's just talking about gratitude and being mindful of the things that are going well. And I always say start a notes thread or a notepad or a Post-it note. Simply the act of writing down 3 things you're grateful for will dramatically shift how your days go and your months go. I think that sometimes we get a little too deep into that caregiving journey to think that nothing is going well. And if you stop and just take a moment to reflect, there's tons of things that are going well. So those are 2 of them. That's just 1 page of the self-care pages, but there's tons of great stuff in here.
So I agree with you, because I do think that when you become a caregiver, kind of depending on your level of care, you get so caught up in all the stuff, the scheduling of appointments, the taking care of that person. Oh, the medication. I will tell you, my dad when I really realized he needed some help with the medication is he would not put them in a pill box. I think he thought that would just make him feel old or sick or something. He absolutely refused. So he would put them out and put Post-it notes on times he was supposed to take them. And you go over there and the Post-it notes are on the ground. So what does this go to? Because they don't stick forever.
No.
Yeah. And it was just the worst thing trying to figure out. And then he had like old medication, and then he had supplements that I don't, whether they work or not.
Medication is a slippery slope. I think that that's something that, kind of going back to the brand new baby analogy, like that's something that none of us are like well versed in. We're not a pharmacist. We're not, generally we don't have that baseline knowledge. And so leaning on, there's tools and there are solutions out there to kind of help with that, maybe would make a person feel like, oh, I don't have to have the pill box, but maybe I can have an automatic pill dispenser that tells me it's time to take this medication at this time.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I would have been on that all day long. He was so stubborn. I can't even tell you. He was super stubborn. But yeah, absolutely. The pill thing or the medication management is a big one. And it's important because if you start getting medications mixed up, depending on what they are, you could have a real problem.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think about kind of the domino effect that I've seen over the last little bit over a decade. And it's especially when those medications do get mixed up and balance is an issue, a fall happens. That's kind of a domino effect that if we can avoid that at all costs, that's going to really set you up for greater success.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you, as a caregiver, you never want your loved one to fall. That will absolutely alter their lives potentially.
Yes.
And it will alter yours because now you not only have someone that may have some cognitive issues or just need some help with, the general going ons of life, but now they have physical disabilities per se.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And there's, again, like, I think that this is just how my brain works now, but there's so many things that can be preventative, but I think that we don't really talk about those because it's typically more of a reaction based conversation. So I would really love to just see as time goes on, more proactive conversations, like reach out to a home safety coach, reach out to people that can come help, maybe modify the home and give you ideas on how to make your home safer if that's the scenario that you're navigating. Because like you said, somebody falls and they go to the hospital, they go to rehab, they come back home, they're not strong enough to come home. And then we just kind of domino throughout that.
Right, exactly. So you just mentioned something about a resource. Is that a resource that's online? The caregiver, what did you call it?
So that's Home Safety Coach.
Oh, that's it.
You can just look her up at homesafetycoach.com. I actually did an interview with her. It's been a couple of years ago now, but she does virtual consultations where she will basically be shown around your house and let you kind of tell her what the normal day-to-day looks like. And she is a physical therapist, I believe, by trade. And so she's really able to help, offer solutions that keep you feeling confident and safe in your home longer.
Yeah, because we do know that grab bars are so important in a bathroom.
Yeah.
And I even saw that and they can be beautiful. They don't have to look you can really do it nice. So anyone listening, you can make it look really pretty.
You can always, yes.
Yeah. And then the actual toilet paper roll was an actual grab bar. Because you think if you're sitting there, you may need something to push yourself up. Yeah. 100%. I thought that was the coolest thing when I saw that.
I think just in general, right? Anybody listening to this can kind of think back on how things have evolved and progressed since, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So when you think about if your preconceived notion of this type of stuff is from 30, 40 years ago, it has shifted and evolved and changed. And it's, like you said, you can make these things so beautiful. I have worked in the most elegant, just luxurious retirement communities that I'm like, I'd move in here today.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Sometimes even when I'm working with some of my clients, I'm like, oh, they have happy hour. Ooh, they have wine night. Ooh,
a salon.
I know. I am out.
Yeah. A salon, the fitness center, a theater. When I worked within a senior living actual community, I would tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, I don't qualify, but if we combine our ages, we could move in here together.
Yeah.
They're like, you would move in here? I was like, yesterday.
Yeah.
Someone's going to take care of all my stuff for me? Heck yes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, it's scary when you start getting into that 55 age range, because you're thinking there is no way, but there's 55 communities. Now, a lot of them are shifting to 62 plus, but because, I think 50s is the new 40s. We got to go with that.
Absolutely. It is. Absolutely.
I'll just keep telling myself that.
I support you in this fully.
Exactly.
Hi, this is Andrew Brainerd, owner of TransMedCare Long Distance Medical Transportation. When the time comes to relocate a loved one under medical care, TransMedCare is here to help. We offer nationwide medical transport services with fully customized vans providing all the comforts of home, and licensed medical professionals to accompany your loved one along every mile. At TransMedCare, nothing is more important than bringing your loved one home safely. Visit our website at trans-medcare.com.
So we talked a little bit about some of the self-care ideas, and I wanted to mention, going back to the baby thing, when women have babies, there are so many people that give them spas, massages, all these different types of things for that self-care.
That's it.
A caregiver is no difference. Like I said in the very beginning, it is the hardest job you'll ever do with zero pay.
Yeah.
So those little moments of self-care are so super important, whether it's like taking a long bath, going to the spa, anything like that. Honestly, just having a candle while you're like cooking, to me, that is a nice moment.
Yes. And I think that I hear it a lot where people are like, oh, I just don't know what to do for that person. I don't know how to help them. I don't know how to best support them in their caregiving journey. And I normally respond with, what would you do if a mother was pregnant and about to bring a baby into the world?
Mm-hmm.
What would you do for her? You would get her a spa certificate, or you would take her to get her nails done, or you would take her, you would do some of those things that you just mentioned. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's the same energy on both ends that really make an impact. So I just think that when people, are thinking of things like this, using that analogy will probably be really helpful.
I love that. I'm getting so much out of that part of it because I don't think about that.
Yeah.
And also with caregivers, a lot of times there's a lot of strife within family and things like that because there are a lot of differentiations on what to do and what care to take. So I do think it is important. That's an added level of stress that goes with that caregiving. Yes. So it is important. That massage, you got to release, relax. You've got to just decompress a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
And on that point really quick, so that's something I do obviously have the roadmap, but I still do sessions with families. And that's kind of what the goal was with launching this consulting. And it's been so fascinating to see all different family members get on a Zoom call. They're in different cities or states or different parts of the world. And what I have found, this is just my personal observation, is that when 5, 6, 7 family members are all on a call together, hearing the same information, getting the same foundation at the same time, they work so much better together as a team because they had maybe preconceived notions of who's doing what, who's not doing what, who's not doing enough, who's doing too much. And often,
who's texting who what. I mean,
yes.
I think that becomes an issue as you start having text conversations instead of real conversations.
And so to me, it was just like, let's just get everybody on Zoom. I record that Zoom call. I send them that recording and a full recap. And when people get off of that session, they feel like they know which seat they're in on the bus, where they can be the most helpful and make the greatest impact. And families typically work better together in that situation. I think that typically it's falling on like an adult daughter to lead the charge. And I personally believe there should be a third party, non-emotionally charged person to kind of, moderate that conversation that can just give you base foundation. Now go make good choices for yourself and your loved one because you have the foundation to do so.
That's fabulous. I didn't even know that existed. So that could be a whole different podcast, which may be a potential in the future. So what are some things, one of the things that you talk about in your book is spotting the signs about additional care if that's needed.
Yeah.
So we do, as caregivers, you try to do everything, but when you're in it, you may be missing certain things where if someone was on the outside looking in, it would be a different story.
Yeah. So in this roadmap, I have 6 signs that if you kind of see these or notice these, additional support might be needed or might be worth considering.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll just talk about those real quick. Isolation's number 1. I think that when folks are retreating to their home more than usual, declining invites to do outings or avoiding phone calls, or, if that's out of their character, probably kind of a yellow flag. Let's start to maybe unpack that a little bit. The second one is something we've already kind of talked about, but it's balance and unsteadiness. And just talking about that's the number 1 reason for falls and the domino effect that comes from that. Actually have in this roadmap, connect with home safety coach to learn tricks and tips. And then number 3 is something we also talked about, and that's missed or mismanaged medications.
Mm-hmm.
So, you probably started to see that your dad was putting Post-it notes out and you were probably like, this is something that we might need to shift a little bit and
Exactly.
do something a little different. Unopened mail or unpaid bills. I think that you can, again, if that's outside of someone's character, to just have a huge stack of mail that they've not opened or they don't really know how to navigate anymore, probably a good sign of, hey, let's look into that a little bit. And then the last 2 are dings and dents in a vehicle. I remember my grandpa was not supposed to drive, and he would wait until my mom and stepdad went to work, and he would take his little car. We lived in a teeny tiny town. But he would just take his car down the road. He just wanted to go see his buddies, and he'd come back and like the whole rear view mirror would be off. And my mom would be like, Dad, what happened? And he'd be like, oh, it's been like that. No, it hasn't.
Oh my goodness.
That's like a good sign of like,
yeah.
Let's maybe look into that. And then the last thing here is just weight loss and expired food. Both should just raise a little bit of concern as, what's going on. Are they eating properly?
Mm-hmm.
Is this weight loss or weight gain something I should be, concerned about? And so those are just some of the signs. Again, this is not like an end all be all, but these are just some things to kind of give you things to consider and then some ideas on what to do if that is going on.
Yeah, you're right about the food thing. I do remember like checking my dad's refrigerator and things like that. He started buying tons of stuff. So he went the exact opposite. I don't know that he was eating it because he didn't really cook. My mom passed away and she was the one that cooked. And, honestly, when I was growing up, if we had just my dad there to feed us, we would have pancakes for breakfast. So, which is not bad, but you can't live by that.
Every day.
Yeah. So I know that was not his forte. I mean, he would always grill, but he's not going to go outside and grill a bunch of food just for himself.
Right.
So that was something that was a concern that I was seeing, that he was like getting a ton of food and then what was expiring because he would forget what he bought. So he would, I have 3 sour creams. I have, different things that you just don't need, doubles.
For sure.
So that's a definite one as well. So I do like that aspect of it. And then, the weight gain, weight loss, I hadn't even really thought about that, but that's something that is clearly evident. And that's a problem.
Yeah, for sure. And again, these are things that I'm like envisioning somebody that visits their parent maybe routinely or sees them in their kind of natural flow and notices these things. Mm-hmm. Being able to say, oh, those are maybe like triggers for me to look into a little bit further. So yeah, I hope that that's helpful.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I do think it is really good to just keep some of those fine points that you just mentioned in mind as you're going through that journey, because I will say the other thing on the mail thing, if you see it, even if they're open, I feel like if it's piled up because they're having a hard time navigating their finances, yes. or they go out and I will tell you, they buy things they cannot afford, like very expensive cars. And you're just going, why do you need this gigantic, supercharged truck, Dad? You're not going, you're just tootling around town. So it was just, it's just a strange thing as well. And then kind of seeing, some of the bills that he incurred from that, as well as bills that were completely illegitimate. So there was some scamming that was going on. So going through the stacks and looking what's there is important too, because there may be stuff coming in, you don't know what they're
and they might
scam.
not, right?
And
I think that taking that cognitive aspect into consideration of, and just this feels like a good time to make this point too, is that when these types of things happen, aging, health decline, cognitive decline, all of the above, it's super important that we as family members, caregivers, etc., really try to empathize and think about what it would be like to be in that person's shoes. Because I think that so often, guilty adult daughters specifically, we tend to get like, why would you do that? Or why is that happening? And I think it's just really important for us to be mindful of, hey, is there something going on? And if they're not at a place cognitively or physically that they can say like, yeah, I've started to notice some things are declining, just be mindful and be empathetic of how we're approaching those things. I've really found in having those big family sessions that people just have different ways of approaching this topic and don't really think about how it's going to affect the end result. And so meeting them where they are, if, I think about dementia and Alzheimer's, and if somebody thinks that they're going home, let's use a little bit of therapeutic fibbing. We don't need to lie, but we do need to say like, okay, well, we'll do that after we do this, and just redirect instead of saying like your home is sold and everyone that you care about is already gone. Like they're different, right? They feel different, and they make a huge impact. So I just thought that was important to share, just really being mindful of how we're navigating these waters.
Absolutely. And, the reality is we're all going to be there one day.
Oh, yes.
And
how, that's the other, it's not if, it's when.
Yeah. Yeah. And how are we going to want people to treat us? Because in the reality is, we're all getting older. There's no cure for Alzheimer's, dementia. It's something that I think that a lot of us are going to have to contend with. So how you take care of someone may reflect how you get taken care of as well. So
that's exactly right. Yeah. And just in general, let's just like take good care of each other. That seems easy enough to me.
Right. But understanding how you communicate with that person, I think, is a huge deal on the dementia and Alzheimer's side, because it's
for sure. And there's so many great resources for that too. I'm sure people are familiar with Dementia Darling, and I have a good friend that started a business called The Memory Compass. She's a dementia family coach. Those types of services didn't exist a couple of years ago. And so using, whatever stage of your journey you're on to just educate yourself on some of those is going to be super impactful when the time comes, not if the time comes.
Exactly. Well, did you have anything else you wanted to share with us before we sign off?
I don't think so. I just really appreciate this time and this opportunity to share a little bit. I think that, resources like this show are going to be what set people up for greater success in their journey. So I really appreciate you for hosting and launching this. And I'm always available to answer questions, help people get connected to the right resources that they need. So I'm sure that contact information will be down below, but feel free to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And that is the point of this podcast. It really is meant to be a great resource for seniors and their families. So I did want to tell you before we left, or tell our listeners, I should say, that it is Roadmap for Elder Care by Christie with a Christie.
Yeah.
Freeze, like, oh, it's cold.
Cold. Yeah. And if you just go to Amazon, you can just type in Roadmap for Elder Care. It'll pop up.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll include the link to it as well within the content of the podcast.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today, Christie.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to share it with someone that you think will benefit from the resources that we provide. We are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, really anywhere you listen to music or podcasts.